So now what I'm going to do today, I'm calling it strength building relaxation, or strength building relaxation and insomnia. This is just like the rest of the book. Now the book, let me mention that quickly. The last self-help book that you will ever need to be happy. And I'm a little embarrassed by the arrogance of that title. But I'm just kind of hoping that maybe at least some of it could be true. That somehow, and the major focus of the whole book is tension reduction, learning to control your cortisol, adrenaline levels. Because if these things are done, if you can stay at these low tension levels, then most mental health problems cease to exist. And there's just some really, really surefire ways of doing this. Like, let's say, yoga. What is the statistics on yoga? A year of yoga, and this might be 200 hours, then you're going to feel a lot better. Just that learning that total relaxation thing. 2 years, even more. Meditation, that's another way of learning to control cortisol, adrenaline, tension, worry. Meditation, you can get rid of worry and tension. But now, there's some other things that we can do, other things going on, such as background sounds, birds tweeting, waves coming in. And these can be distracting. And we can, for a little while, get into that, kind of imagine we're there. But the difference between that and some of the other techniques is I'm looking for a little more durability, you might say, a little bit more generalization. So now, one of the techniques that have been proven long ago to be effective is progressive muscle relaxation. And in this technique, you go from one muscle area to the next. And there's all kinds of variations. I have a couple variations on some of my other videos, relaxation videos. And so, but I have like and it might be just a partial muscle relaxation experience. So let's start with our feet. So we might do this kind of, okay, I'm going to raise my feet, and I'm squeezing my toes, pushing upward in my shoes, and I'm tightening up the calves. So now how long do you hold that? Well, it varies, kind of how long does it feel right. But let's do that, tighten okay, I got the calves tight, and I can feel they're tight. Now they're loose. So let's move up to another level. How about the thighs? Okay, so I'm squeezing the thighs, and they're toned. There's tone, there's, see, it doesn't, now if I go like that, relax. So now, I think a lot of people do physical therapy for their back. So here's something interesting. Over half of America has back trouble. Why? Over half of America doesn't exercise enough to keep the vertebrae away from each other. What keeps a vertebrae, what keeps the space? Tendons, ligaments, muscles. When you're building tendons, ligaments, muscles, the muscles go build first. They can get strong first. But then maybe a year, it might take a lot longer for the tendons and ligaments to also get strong. And when that happens, you're probably not going to have back trouble. Now, is there any proof of that? Well, they have primitive tribes who spend possibly 8 hours a day picking up walnut. They don't have back trouble, even in their 80s. But remember, over 50% of Americans have back trouble. Why? Just simple fact that the muscles aren't strong enough to hold the vertebrae in place. And they talk about the J curve and the S curve. Most Americans have the S curve, meaning that there's a twist there. The primitive natives have the J curve. It's kind of more straight down. So anyway, we kind of got stalled on the tensing and relaxing. But if you're doing this later, you can just proceed right through to the different body parts. But like I said, I was just starting to talk about the glutes. Now, why are the glutes important? Well, in addition to being another set of muscles that you can tighten and let go, because it's tightening, letting go, tight, let go, that the relaxation is a byproduct of first tight, then let go. And so the glutes are also the first part of the core. Now the core, what is the core? That is the muscles, maybe 5 or 6 sets of muscles up and down your back. And these muscles up and down your back, if they're in good shape, they all help keep the vertebrae away from each other. They all help keep this space so that you don't have crushed discs with the vertebrae just crunching down on them. And when the vertebrae crushes down on the disc, you get sciatica, you get pain up and down your legs, you get pain all over the place. So let's say the glutes. I'm going to tighten up my glutes now. And again, you don't have to hold it a long time. But now see, if I let go, but now I'm going to tighten the glutes again. And kind of like, oh, did I miss anything? Because I'm not sure whether physical therapy always includes the glutes. Because that's a whole part of the back down there that the glutes get strong and can help keep the space, even down to the last vertebrae down there. But also, squeezing the glutes, what does that do? If you've ever heard of a Kegel, now a Kegel is when you, say you're in the bathroom relieving yourself, letting the urine out, and then you cut off the urine flow, you just squeeze. And that is called a Kegel. And so you're probably going to be doing that along with this little exercise of tightening the glutes. So, people report, both males and females report more enjoyment in the sexual area when the pelvic core is strengthened. And also, if you do that early enough in life, you're going to drastically reduce the possibility later of needing to wear a pad because they'll strengthen those valves that open and close. So now let's go up to the next level of muscles. This is the whole stomach area around the back. Now this is the one where if you were doing a crunch, like if you're on the floor, you're doing a crunch, lifting up your shoulders about an inch or two. So you're going to get that effect. But if you're sitting in a chair, like I am most of the time I do this, then I have a little compromise or a little different way of doing it. I kind of push forward. So now, see, I can push in and that's tight. Now if I relax, that goes in. Push in, and kind of like a little thrust, kind of. That's tight. So next, okay, now I want to do the rest. I want to do my neck. I want to do my shoulders. I want to do my chest. So now, if you are familiar with dynamic tension, years back there was Charles Atlas that did dynamic tension. And he would do these exercises without any things, nothing, wouldn't necessarily use weights, wouldn't, just pushing one muscle against the other, just kind of squeezing. And I remember one guy had an incredible build, and I said, wow, you've been working out. And he said, I've been on a submarine. They don't have a gym on the submarine. I said, well, how'd you do that? What you did? He said, all I need is 6 inches of floor. And so then he talked to me about some of the stuff he did, and there was push-ups and this and that. And of course you can add those, but for me, I'm talking about, saying, okay, strength building, relaxation, and insomnia. So let's get to the next stage of the strength building. So I'm going to do like this. I'm going to push this hand against that hand. And maybe just kind of do a little bit like this. And now I remember, oh, I got to put the neck in there. I got to put the shoulders in there. So I'm kind of squeezing, finding a way to tighten up all those different areas. But you always want, you don't want to hold your belly. You always want to be breathing, exhaling. And sometimes I'll do these things in the car. So then I'm driving along, grab the steering wheel. Now, if you get real strong, you want to make sure you don't pull the steering wheel out. But I've never had that problem yet. So I will just grab the steering wheel and just kind of like pull up like this. And at the same time, I'm doing my neck and chest. Then I'll turn over and do this. And so, yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky because I think, now I'm not really that good a measuring guy, but I'm thinking that in the last couple of years, I think I might have gained 2 inches on my biceps just from doing this. So in other words, I said strength building, and I think it's really happened. I think that I've got tone when I go like this. There's tone, nothing gives. This, nothing gives. So why do people get trouble with their knees? A lot of times, physical therapy of different parts of the body, different pains. Physical therapy for the knees. Okay, you're going to do this. You're going to build strength in the knees. So strength in the knees means building muscles in the knees. Muscles in the knees means that you're keeping the things apart, keeping the different bones, keeping separated. And if they're weak and they grind down and they're rubbing, some of the bones rubbing like this, you're wearing away your cartilage. Wearing the cartilage away, then you need a new knee. So, strength all over your body can have extremely beneficial effects. Now, is it a really hard workout? Are you going to, can you say that that's a workout of cardio? Well, to some degree, but you might need to do some other stuff for cardio. So that's the progressive muscle relaxation. But then it's like, what else? That could take quite a while to go through one body part after the other. So it's kind of like, well, I want to get more done faster. So here's a modification. And now I'm going to do this, kind of modify this and do something that there's going to be timing. But you don't have to follow this timing. You can do it however you want. But in this modification, I'm going to tighten all the muscles at the same time. Every muscle that I can get a hold of, that I can remember. So let's start. And so what I'm going to do is exhale on effort. And I'm going to take a intake breath. Now, if I'm making a little noise while I'm doing this, you don't have to do that. I'm just doing that so that you can follow the breathing pattern. So it's going to be inhale, then exhale on effort. So typically the exhale and tightening of every muscle at once is only going to last about the length of one breath out, one exhalation. So exhale on effort, then 2 breaths in between to kind of let everything go limp again, everything relax. And I sometimes do it this way, but I do variations. I might hold it a little longer sometimes, but it might be a good way to start. So here we go. I'm going to do an intake. Now I'm going to blow out the air and tighten everything at once. Well, I'll take the intake again. Now 2 relaxed breaths. Intake. Tighten everything. Squeeze. Let go. 2 relaxed breaths. Intake. Two relaxed breaths. Intake. Squeeze. And each time I can feel, oh, did I get that? Must I get that? Oh, yeah, I got that one. Okay. Oh, I missed the glutes. Okay, next time, make sure I get those in there too. And if it doesn't look like it to you, I'm starting to feel more and more relaxed. I feel this kind of everything just kind of quieting down. So, yeah, this variation of the progressive muscle relaxation and then making it into a whole body relaxation, I feel certainly works good for me. And of course, I've shown a lot of people in my office, and I'll very often have them record it and then play it back and run through it again. Because one of the problems is so many people are so anxious, they're so worried. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Especially when we get to the diaphragm breathing, am I doing it right? And then they'll be so tight that they might have to listen to the recording they made of us doing this 4 or 5 times, or maybe even go to another YouTube video on diaphragm breathing to get that under control. Because it's kind of funny sometimes that people will be trying to do diaphragm breathing and trying to do the relaxation, and instead of letting the hand on the bottom of the near the stomach level flow out, they will squeeze everything in. So it does take a little practice. But anyway, let's get back to some more of these tight, let go, whole body squeeze. Okay, here's an intake. Squeeze, exhale, squeeze everything out. And then if you want to, if you feel like, yeah, I'd like to continue that a little, you can do that. You can twist this way, you can pull this way. Or if you got your steering wheel, you can go like that, you can go like this, you can go like that. So we're getting quite a variety of things. So in the gym, you'd be lifting this up or pulling this down. So can you do that in the chair of in the seat of your rocking chair? Can you do that in the seat of your car? Can you do that in an office chair like this? Well, it seems to look like it. Yeah, I think it's helped me out. So, well, just a little tiny bit about the book again. The last self-help book that you will ever need to be happy. And throughout that, basically you could say the whole book is about how to relax, how to drop tension level, how to drop cortisol level, how to drop adrenaline, how to, and there's page after page of explanation about what happens when you drop the tension, what happens when you can run along at, say, a 3 or 4 on the 10 scale, tensionometer or tension scale. So number 10 is fight or flight when you're all cranked up. Number 1 is the guru going, oh. And so he has a low metabolism. You can prove all that. He is relaxed. The Dalai Lama has mastered meditation and relaxation. And so he's happy. He's proven he's happy. So what are some of the reasons we want to be relaxed? Well, we want sleep. Turns out sleep is absolutely critical. I have a lot of that topic in my book in the insomnia chapter. And it turns out that it's only after you get to about the 6th to 8th hour of sleep that a lot of stuff starts to happen. One of which is big flushes. The cerebral spinal fluid flushes through, big flushes, and that only happens in deep sleep. And that cleans out the amyloid plaques that are starting to build up. And if you don't get into deep sleep, and you don't sleep hardly at all, and I find people that are sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, the brain just isn't doing the rebuilding that it should. And so there's lots and lots of studies showing that tension means earlier dementia. Anxiety, lifelong, earlier dementia. The plaques get built up in there. And you don't do the deep flushing that you need to do. But more details are on that in my book. So now let's try another variation. Now, how long should you do these different ones that I've showed you so far? I did it just a few minutes each, but you might want to do 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, possibly even an hour a day off and on of that building the strength in the different parts of the body. Because that hour a day off and on has a lot better chance of getting the back strong, getting the tone that you need, being able to stand up still, and not fall over as easy, not break hips as you get older. So people will say, okay, I went to physical therapy. Oh yeah, it helped a lot. Oh, I went to 5 sessions of physical therapy. And I was there for 5 hours for 3 weeks. So then you did 15 hours of physical, and it helped. But see, what if you did an hour a day for the rest of your life? That's 365 hours in a year. And you've got a lot better chance of doing these things, getting the back strong, keeping the back strong. So just like I had this guy said, you know what, I'm still having trouble sleeping. And I said, well, how much time have you spent watching the relaxation videos? He said 18 minutes one day. Then I talked to him about how 250 hours a year of yoga will make a big difference. And so you did 18 minutes? What do you expect? You know, it takes time, takes effort. It's not just going to fall in your lap. So what's next? This can be a tricky one. Diaphragm breathing. And I'm probably not going to do it enough for you to catch on. But, like I say, you can go to the YouTube channel, search diaphragm breathing, and find the different ones. Try this one, try that one, until you learn diaphragm breathing, which is one of the first major ways that throughout history, or known history, that different cultures have dropped tension level, have controlled that high tension, high arousal, controlled quick anger, controlled fear, all with the breath. So, diaphragm breathing. Okay, we're going to put one hand on the stomach, one hand on the chest. So the way most people breathe, it's going to be like... So this hand moved, this hand moved a little bit. But let's say you're tense and you're having chest pains. You think you're having a heart attack. So we're going to bypass this area. We're going to go down to the diaphragm. We're going to pull in air and guide it down to the diaphragm, which is the lower part of the breathing connecting to the lower part of the lungs. So here we go. So now this hand should be moving, this hand should not be moving. But now a lot of people get very enthusiastic and they want to do this quickly. And so if you take a couple breaths and you start to get dizzy, that means you took in more air than you need and you've blown out too much of your carbon dioxide. So you have to back off and take less of a breath. So it might be like this. Now, if you do this and you're kind of thinking about the breath, being one with the breath, it doesn't take long for you to start feeling yourself drifting down, going into a nice relaxed state. Now, what do we use these relaxed states for when we get there? Well, we use them for anger management. We use them to visualize, to imagine, to rehearse new behaviors, to practice while we're in a relaxed state. Retraining our mind so that we don't react to this or that thought, this or that negative behavior of others. So anger management is involved. Panic reduction is involved. So now if you're successfully doing this, now let's add 7-Eleven to that. So whenever you drive around and you pass by one, then it should remind you, 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven. So what's 7-Eleven? Okay, here's 7-Eleven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you're mixing diaphragm breathing and 7-Eleven breathing. But when I'm mouthing it, it takes longer. So now I'm going to do the 7-Eleven breath, but I'm going to say it quietly under my breath, silently. So it's going to go faster, so I don't take such deep breaths and get dizzy. So you'll know that I'm taking the breath in when I go like this and lift my head back, and then I'm letting it out when I go like this. So here we go. So, do you do that just 4 breaths? No. That's just an example of some of the stuff that you do. You might do 10, 15, or 20 like that. Or, If you're in the middle of a panic attack, you might do it for a half hour, gradually feeling that tension feeling drop down, gradually. So it's like persistence. I know I had the guy that said he's having trouble sleeping. Wake up at 3, can't get back to sleep. Oh, so now this leads me into the next part. Now we want to go to sleep. Now we're going to do the full body squeeze again. But I'm going to call it a flicker squeeze, because what we're doing is we're just barely doing a little, just a little clenching. So let's say we go like this. We go, taking a breath. Little flicker squeeze, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you really don't even need that much of a squeeze. So the flicker, I'm saying, like I just kind of showed. But anyway, the flicker squeeze might be just a little kind of, you take the breath. Just a little flicker. 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got that going. But these thoughts want to come in. What am I going to do tomorrow? What about this? What? Will I make enough money? Well, you have all day to worry about that stuff. You don't want to worry about that in the middle of the night. You have to teach yourself. Night is for sleep. Night is for rest. Night is for curing, for healing, for the brain to flush. Even in 1950, Americans slept an average of 8 hours. Now it's 6.5 hours. So now they're not only not getting the restoration of the brain they should, they're not getting the immune system rehab that you get overnight. And they're falling asleep at the wheel more accidents. But it's a good thing we got all those bags now that stop you from going into the windshield. Because otherwise, with all the sleep drivers, we'd be a lot worse off. So now, let's add one more thing. Oh, let me see, did I tell you about the guy that, oh yeah, I started to tell you. Wake up at 3, can't get back to sleep till 6. So I said, okay, now do this little squeeze, do the little squeeze. Comes back next week, it didn't work. I said, you did the little squeeze, it didn't work? I said, yeah, well, how long did you do it? He said, well, 10 minutes. And I said, no, you do it until you're asleep. So the next week he came back and he said, it took me a whole hour before I fell asleep. And I said, okay, you fell asleep after an hour. So you usually wake up 3 and you're awake till 6. So it took you to 4 to do this stuff, to relax your body enough, to drop the adrenaline enough, to drop the tension level enough, to get rid of those thoughts long enough so you fell asleep and got 2 more hours. And you're whining about it? Hey, I thought we did pretty good here. So, but now, this will be the finishing touch. This is the insomnia part. Well, I started on the insomnia part when I said the flicker squeeze. But now here's where real discipline is required. Because now you're going to do a video in your head. So you're doing the little squeeze. And so that gets a little confusing after a while. And it's kind of hard to follow. But then we're going to add another task. You're going to start a video. So, well, how do you do that? Well, how about Goldilocks? So I'll tell people, okay, I want you to see this as I'm telling you. You see this little blonde-headed girl walking through the forest. She's very hungry, she's very tired. And she is scared because it's getting dark. And she sees a little house in the woods. She goes up and knocks at the door. Nobody answers. And she thinks, well, maybe they just didn't hear her. So she opens the door and looks in, and she sees over in the kitchen, she sees 3 bowls of porridge. So then I'll ask people, have you seen all that? Did you see all that? Yeah, they saw it all. I say, okay, well, Goldilocks will work. You can do the rest of Goldilocks, or you can do Little Orphan Annie, or you can do The Big Bad Wolf. You can do, or you can go back over your day. Now, you don't want to go back over stuff that was kind of scary when people are yelling at you and stuff. But just, in other words, it's you get a video in your mind, not just pictures, but a video. And so I call that priming the dream pump. And you do that for a while, the little squeezes and the counting and the Little Orphan Annie or Little Red Riding Hood. Or me, I'll be watching my dog. He's on a leash. He's kind of, his little feet are moving here, moving there. And pretty soon he puts me to sleep. So now I think that, let's see if there's a couple more things. Like, okay, the diaphragm breathing, like I said, people will just have a terrible time with that. And then we throw in we want to throw in 7-Eleven and diaphragm breathing. And then people will be going like this. So I'll say, okay, now let the air out. Let your stomach push out. And they'll go like this. I say, well, no, you're pulling it in. And they got these kind of staring eyes. They're, oh, I'm afraid to make a mistake. So afraid I'll make a mistake. So don't worry if you do this and it doesn't make sense. But about the second, third time, fourth time you listen to it, you might start getting the idea behind it. And then throw in some YouTube diaphragm breathing ones. And if this was any help to you, then my book is full of stuff, full of examples, full of other ways of dropping tension down. So, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this presentation.